and today we're going to be taking a look at the Dragon's Lair games, but we're mostly going to focus on the NES and the Super Nintendo version, since those are the ones that I've played the most. But before we get into that, how about we talk about its history? So the original Dragon's Lair game was for the arcades, released in 1983. So it was the same year that the video game crash happened. And this game was really different compared to all the other video games around this time, where it was an interactive movie that used a laser disc. So in a way, this is technically our pioneer version of the game Heavy Rain. And most notably, this game was animated by Don Bluth, who used to animate Disney films. So that's kind of interesting to note. And the story for this game is very simple, where you're using Dirk the Daring, who has to rescue a princess from a dragon. Yep. Not very much else I can elaborate on that. But you also gotta remember that video games around this time weren't really based around story, they were more based around getting a high score. So I thought I might as well point that out now, so anyways, we gotta get this review going. So first off, let's take a look at the NES game. So this version of the game was developed by Movie Time, and published by CSG ImageSoft, and was released in 1990 in North America. And as you can tell, this game is not so much an interactive movie, but is more of an action platformer. And the first thing I want to point out is, fucking balls. Yeah, you saw that right. You die in one hit by pretty much everything in this game. And yet you have a health bar, but the only thing that takes damage from you slowly is the bats. So there's really no point of having a health bar since everything kills you in one fucking hit. Especially the door. Like, really? The fucking door can kill you in one hit? Like, are you really that fragile that a door can kill you? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, imagine if the real life was like that.
No shit.
Now, if that were to happen, there'd be no more human race. So with that being said, you really have to use your memory to survive this game. But of course, there's another problem that gets in the way, and I'll talk about it right here, right now. So the controls for this game are really terrible. They're really slow and delayed, and you use B to jump, which is really weird because normally it's A to jump. Although I do get used to that fairly quickly, but it's still a bitch for the fact that the controls are really slow and delayed. And they're so delayed that even when you try to jump from the bridge that's collapsing underneath you, if you're not fast enough, you'll just drop down anyway and die. And when you're trying to duck underneath the dragon's fire, the delay makes that a bitch even more. So overall, the controls for this game are really bad. And maybe instead of calling him Dirk the Daring, they should just call him Derp the Daring, because I mean seriously? But of course I'm just making fun of it now. Now as for the graphics for this game, I think the graphics are really good in this game. It's pretty well detailed, I find, and it has really nice colors. And I will give them credit that the animation they did put into this game is actually really good too. It's just unfortunate that the game happens to be really slow and shit, so they really tried to force that too much. But other than that, I'd say that the graphics in this game are actually really good for NES. And now for the music in this game, I also really like that as well. I find it to be really well composed, and it always gets stuck in my head every now and then. But I mostly like the intro theme to the game. That one's probably my favorite track. So with that being said, the music is pretty good. Now the farthest I've gotten through this game is the second level. Yeah, I know, that's so far, right? And it's called the Dungeon. And the reason why this level is really hard is mainly for the fact that it's so long and there's not very many checkpoints. And oh, did I mention that like when you die and lose all your lives, you have to start all the way back from the beginning, so you have to do the bullshit at the drawbridge again? Yeah, this game does not really fuck around at all. Now if you want to buy this game, it's about a $10 game. So it's very cheap, and I think it's a really good reason why it's cheap. But personally, I wouldn't pay $10 for this game, considering the fact it's just so frustrating. Now, if I were to rate this game, I'd have to give it a 2 out of 10. Yeah, I found a 2 out of 10 makes more sense, since the game is somewhat playable, it's just the fact that it's just ridiculously hard. And it's not reasonably hard, it's just like the type of hard where like, you just can't do shit in the game. But it's also the controls that makes this game really hard since they're so slow and sloppy. But I have heard that the European version of the game is not as slow and sloppy, so I guess that's a good thing, but the thing is, I'm not from the PAL region, so yeah, I'll probably never play that version unless I can order it, but I really don't feel like that. But as for the North American version, it just fucking sucks, so overall, they really fucked up on this type of NES game. So let's move on and see if the Super Nintendo version can do better. I mean, the Super Nintendo is super after all. Now this version was released in 1993, and it was developed by Movie Time, again. and published by Data East, and hopefully this one will be better. So this is also an action platformer game, and there's a password system, which is really good since the first one didn't have that. And one thing that was added is that you can now use a sword, where before you can only use throwing daggers. And you can throw axes as well. And the good thing about throwing the axes is that when you hold down the button, it just throws it automatically. And you can select the stages that you want to go through with this map, where you have to complete all the levels first. But it is still kind of a neat idea since you can go through the game in different directions. Also, you gotta love the fact that he looks like Mr. Potato Head, like right there. Now, the level designs in this game is not so much straightforward, but it is like has some little areas that you can just explore around, which I do like that. But the levels are all really short. At least for the most part, they're mostly really short. So that's so far so good. So now let's take a look at the controls. And I have to say, the controls have been improved by quite a bit, although they're now a little bit too like slippery. But other than the slippery part, they actually work pretty fine. In fact, it's a miracle that they were able to at least get it this good. So overall, I would at least say that the controls are decent. It's just, you know, the slippery thing kind of kills it though. But other than that though, it's been mostly improved. Now as for the graphics for this game, I think they look pretty decent. Now they're not the best 16-bit graphics that I've ever seen, but the one thing I do appreciate is the fact that they look really cartoony, which, you know, kind of suits the game since the game originally was a cartoon. Well, the original video game looked like a cartoon. So I would have to say that the graphics for this game are pretty good. Now as for the music for this game, now I think the music in this game is fucking awesome. I find it sounds kind of darkish, which I really like that. Now I know that this main theme of the game is not supposed to be dark, but I really do like the music though. I think it just sounds really good. In fact, I would recommend people to go listen to the OST for this game. Now this game is pretty tough, but however, at least I can get past the second level. And it's not hard for the fact that you have like the delay reaction of a sloth. It's mostly like a reasonably challenged game, although one thing I will have to say that is a pain in the ass are these like floating around dragon heads that appear out of nowhere all the time. I swear they're in every single fucking level. And thank God you don't die in one hit in this game. And I was starting to think that he was like made out of glass out the entire time, much like Glass Joe from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but nope, things are just okay. And now if you want to buy this game, it's also a $10 game, so it's about the same price as like the NES version, except for the fact this one seems to be a lot better. Now if I were to rate this game, I'd have to give it a 6 out of 10. Now this game may not be anything like fan-fucking-tastic, like it's gonna like make you like shit your pants because it's so awesome. No, it's not gonna be anything like that, but it's at least entertaining. And also most importantly, a huge improvement compared to the shitty NES version. So I think a 6 out of 10 is pretty good, considering how it made a big improvement, and not only that, but at least the game's decent. The only thing that is kind of crappy is the fact that the controls are a bit slippery. And I can see that being a problem for some people, but as for me, it's like kind of a problem, but it's nothing like too major. I mean, honestly, I'd rather be a little bit too slippery than like being all like slow and shit. And I have heard some people say that this game was like really crappy and stuff, but I don't know, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, I can see why people don't like it, because, you know, I think they were probably expecting something like a lot better, but honestly, compared to the first NES game, anything could have been better than that. So I have no idea, but I'm just assuming things since, well, there's nothing much else I could say about that, since I never really asked why people thought it was bad, but hey, it's all about opinions, right? So I think the game's not too bad, and maybe some people may think this game is like really terrible, but either way though, there's not much else I can say about this version of the game, and that's going to be the last one we're going to be taking a look at. And I would really like to get a chance to play that like 3D one that they made on the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox. And of course, you can get direct ports from the arcade version, such as like there's a Sega CD version, a CDI version, and a 3DO version, and there's a few other ones. And you wouldn't believe it, but there's even a Game Boy Color version. Yeah, no, that's really weird. And I also heard that the Amiga version is really different as well, but I've never played that one though. But it would be interesting to take a look at it someday, if I can. So there's lots of different ways to play the Dragon's Lair games. So maybe I might be able to do another episode on this subject, but it might not be for a pretty long time. So either way though, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and commenting.